Did you know that there is 3 specific zones that every single retail customer that you've ever spoken to or that you will speak to are in when they come to you? On today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about those 3 zones and how it can help you close more deals. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name is Max. I'm your host. Thanks for joining me. Shout out to you if you're in YouTube land or if you're having a drive around or a walk around listening to this on the podcast. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate your ear and your eyes. And so as usual, look, I've just started promoting the fact that all my contact information is in the bio of the podcast and the YouTube channel. And so I'd encourage you to just get across there if you want to get in contact with me for whatever reason. But obviously my coaching for contractors website is elitebusinessadvisory.com. Get across there. There's a little scorecard in there that talks about 20 odd areas within your business, one to 5. Gives you a bit of an overview of what's involved in your business. That might be a good way to start to see where you're up to, see what your education level is. Remember, the more you learn, the more you earn. Right, get across to Business for Builders VIP, a private group over there for builders, contractors, even subs and apprentices. Feel free to make yourself at home. Or there's the Business for Builders Facebook page as well, that public one. Okay. Today, like and subscribe. That's what I was supposed to say as well. Give us a little bit of a review if you like. Let me know that we're doing an okay job here so that it sort of gives us a bit of inspiration to keep on doing it and doing it better. So we appreciate the love. Thank you in advance for doing that. Okay, today, selling, understanding the 3 client zones. I think in obviously 270 odd podcasts in the last 4 years, I've not talked about this, but it's something that, I think when I talked a couple of episodes ago about, working out, and I've said this before, who are the players, who are the pretenders, who are the wood ducks, who are the folks that are just price shopping perhaps. We're talking retail clients. This understanding the 3 client zones, I think this could be a little bit of an opening to help you understand why it is that people sound like they're serious, but then they kind of ghost you, and I've had this. And if I've had it, you've probably had it as well, And so I think what it does is it just helps us navigate the frustration that comes from clients not responding to text messages, not taking your phone calls, not responding to your emails. And yet they took up an hour of your time when you went out there and talked to them about their renovation. Okay. So I'm going to quickly run through 3. These are super basic. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. It's going to make it very obvious around it's going to help you qualify. That's probably what I would say. I think I did a scorecard, a retail client scorecard a few weeks or months back. And I don't know that I even mentioned this, but this is certainly pertinent as it relates to lead management and sales. Okay. Right. Number 1, the consideration. So what I've got here, and maybe I should have done this. But what I've got here is I want you to treat each of these levels as zones, right? These are all different zones. So if you're going to get a screenshot of that, do it now. Bazinga. And how do I know that you want to do that? Because I used to do that. I get my phone out. I'm like, dude, get out of the way. I'm trying to take a photo. Anyway, okay, so we're going to talk about each of these zones. And the reason we're talking about zones is because this is what happens. You've got a client up here, and this is what they do. They start thinking about a project, then they get serious, then they don't. And then they're back 12 months later because they're off it. And then all of a sudden, this client then starts to think about projects again, goes through the looking zone, and then they're just back to here. We don't want to do anything. And then all of a sudden, they come across you, the builder, at the right time, and that goes to a contract. Now, that's not a zone, that's an outcome, okay? So I don't want you to get that confused, don't get that twisted. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you where these, now, obviously, this zone and this zone are the same. Obviously, this zone and this zone, and then this is the killer. This is the one where we want to get them into. Okay, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. First zone, consideration and observation. Consideration and observation. Let me ask you a question. Do you think it's possible to get a contract with someone in the consideration observation phase? If you said, no, it's not possible, you would be right, okay? You're not going to get them under contract there, okay? Let's talk about why. Clients are learning, they're watching your building company, they're comparing, but they're not buying yet, okay? So they're not ready to commit, right? So your role is to inform. Now, when we're talking about social media and what we do for content creation and things like that, our primary objective, and as much as you and I are building company owners, we are media companies first. In this day and age of not so much social media now, but interest media, if people are interested in general contractors and renovations and house construction and things like that, and they're searching a lot of that stuff out on any of the platforms like Facebook and Instagram, what they're going to find is they're going to get funneled more information to do with that. Okay, so our job is to inform, to educate, and in some cases, entertain, right? The other third dot point to do with consideration in the observation zone is that your pushing to close here can create resistance, and it's a complete waste of time. That's why we don't try and go to contract here. Remember, you've got to modulate. The verbiage that you use should be in direct relation to recognizing what zone your retail lead is in, okay? Right, number 2, we're right here, looking zone. Right, now I'll ask you again, do you think you can close a deal here when someone's in the looking zone? Maybe, but I would personally, I would hold off, pump the brakes a little bit, because I know that I'm starting to move them in the right direction, okay? So in the looking zone, and really something a bit of an oversight here on my part, is this is around education. Hopefully we're not off the board there, okay? That's about education. So the looking zone down here, where it's a little bit iffy as to whether or not you'd close them a deal here, but probably not. This is where, because right now is what you're doing is you're selling them. So this is all about sales. Clients are actively evaluating their options and they're asking real questions now. So they're moving in that right direction. Your role is to guide, qualify, and position the value. Okay, because it is 50-50 right now. They could bust through and end up in the non-looking zone again, where they're definitely not going to commit if something doesn't really line up in their thought. Now, remember, each builder, each client, with each builder that they're dealing with, they're going to be in different zones. Because they might like the way you do business, and all of a sudden they go from being just watching and observing into where they want to actually be sold to. They're like, okay, we're really interested. And, so there's certain questions they're going to ask that are not commitment questions or closing questions, but it's good interest, it's good engagement. And that makes us feel good. This is why sometimes when you get into the looking zone, you'll think, oh, mate, in the bag. When it's not, they're still in the looking. They're not in that central core zone, which we're going to talk about in a minute, where we can get a contract. So they're actively evaluating options and they're asking real questions. Our role, whilst we've got clients in that zone, is to guide, qualify, position for value, and we've got to do it with clarity, professionalism, because that matters more than persuasion. See, I think sometimes we get too much commission breath and we're going after the close. See, and it's more about you're trying to persuade them, you're trying to convince them, you're trying to talk them into it. If you like fishing, they call it fishing for a reason and not catching, because you have to apply a high level of finesse. And that's why you can actually prematurely blow the deal when you thought you had the deal and you're like, oh, I thought those people were coming on board. What's the problem? because you didn't present enough value. Maybe you didn't ask the questions. Maybe you didn't understand their predicament. Maybe they were confused and you didn't pick up on it, but they were close, okay? Okay, so the third one there, and this is the one where we really love. We love being in this. It's called the commitment zone. Now, do we think we can get a contract in the commitment zone? Of course we do. That's where it's at, okay? Clients are ready to decide. Timing matters. Now, when you sense that clients get in here, what is it in your mind that's going to trigger in your mind accurately whether or not they're in the commitment zone and you should be closing instead of doing more selling? Because selling and closing are two different things, okay? Selling is what you do whilst they're in, you don't even do selling here. Remember, you're educating. They're just observing you. When they get into this looking zone, that's where you've got to be selling the features and the benefits and all the value proposition, everything that goes with it, the warranty. I'm amazed how subcontractors still quote me, want to give me a quote. On their quote, there's nothing to do with warranty. And it's like, that's kind of important to me, you know? Or maybe a quick bio about how long you've been in the area and how many builders you work for, or how many jobs you've done, or how long you've been in the industry. Because that is actually an important part. I don't want to go, if I'm not going to base my decision around the cheapest price, I need to understand who I'm dealing with. Now, you go to the smithandsons.ca website, there's at least 20 video testimonials. That's called social proof, social credibility. Our digital reputation is at such a high level that if you and I were as good as each other and we were as professional as each other and we both had a very good looking business, and we both quoted the same job at the same money, and my website has 20 video testimonials and yours has none, guess who's getting the job? Probably us. Simply because people like certainty. They like to know. They like predictability. They don't like surprises. Okay, so in your role here is just to confirm and align and remove the friction. Walk them into the deal. And now, what is the trigger? That's what I was talking about before. It's things like, well, Max, if we were to sign your contract today, can you have us in by Christmas? Or Max, if we were going to go and, include the appliances and you can install those, is that something you can do? And I would say to them, well, if I could supply those appliances and have them installed prior to handover, does that mean we can move forward on the paperwork and do a deal? See, now I'm asking for the business. You have to be, closing is triggered by closing questions, but then you have to ask for the business. You have to ask. Now, what I get occasionally is, okay, so what's the next steps? So if I've got them in the commitment zone and I hear them say to me, so where to from here? I instantly, I'm just going to go, right, let's expedite. Because in their minds, there's no more confusion. It's black and white. They know what they're getting. They know how much it's going to cost. They know how long it's going to take, and they know who they're dealing with. Good to go. If there's any hesitation in that commitment zone, it means there is still something that's unclear and unresolved. So there still will be a small blockage between people that are in the commitment zone and a contract, simply because you've either not done your job coherently enough, or something's come up in the client's life at the last minute that you need to just hustle, pay attention to, and help create, or mitigate that as a blockage, right? So this is why at the beginning, it's like, this is why you can have clients that are sitting here or they're sitting in here and they're not committing. So you've got to ask yourself first and foremost, whenever you've got a client coming into your life, which part of the looking zone are they in? So this is, to me, this is the looking zone. They're either considering outside of here, they're actually really strongly considering, or they're about to make a commitment. But clients will go in and out. I've had clients come back and see us at the home show, and they haven't struck a blow. Like, they're just still talking about doing that basement renovation. Good to see you again. My kids love the inflatable hammers you guys have got. They just keep coming back. So what they're doing is they love sitting out here because there's no obligation on them. The minute they start getting into this zone here, they understand that I'm allowed, because they're going to get closer to me. So if I'm a professional, I'm going to ask appropriate questions. I'm going to move them into a little bit more heavy duty sales protocol than what I would if you're out here. Because out here, probably the safe zone is out here. Because they're just too far. I mean, if I was fishing, I can't cast out far enough. Like, I'm not going to get them. What I can do is throw some burley in the water and let it drift out to them. And that's what really we do as, marketing. Okay. So in here is a bit of a safe zone. We call it the consideration and observation zone. And it's where they can, at a distance, get to know us. And this is why it's important to have a lot of good SEO stuff on your website, a lot of good video testimonials, etc., so that people can get to know you, because people do business with what? People that they know, like, trust. Okay. So now, look, if you've done your job here and you are giving them something to consider and they are observing and they're watching your brand, as they start to draw into this looking zone, what you're going to find is that they're going to be very comfortable with you because they have gotten to know you. And that's why I like being the face of Smith & Sons here in Vernon, BC. Okay, and then of course, what I like to think is once they do hit the commitment zone here, it really is, it's easy for me because I've already demonstrated level of competence and coherence and completeness that they just expect that once they do subconsciously hit that commitment zone, Max will take care of us. And then, we haven't talked about delivery, but you can't play a really awesome game, in this segment here, and then have a delivery system, right, that sucks, okay? You can't have it because all of this hard work up front, and if you're doing the sales and someone else is doing the delivery like I've got, Jed's out there doing the delivery, if you guys and gals aren't on the same page and at the same level and have the same value, remember, we've got to be purpose-driven and value-led. If we haven't got the same value system and we don't respect certain core values equally, we're going to have a very much an unequally yoked type situation whereby I'm focused on delivering great service in the sales process, and then if my team on site doesn't deliver at the same level, it really confuses the client, and that's not really what it's all about. Okay, core takeaway for today. Selling isn't about talking more. Now, I can talk pretty well. I'll stand here and rattle on for 20 minutes or so. But it's not about talking more when we go and do sales. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them the same way. Okay, if you're ever going to get a job to work for someone, if you're not in the really, you're not working, you're not building, you're not wanting to get into business for yourself yet. Okay, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk. But it's about saying the right things at the right time in the right zone. Okay, so the type of content that you're going to talk about in zone 1 is going to be at a fairly low level, low intensity. It's just giving with nothing, no expectation in return, no call to action even, okay? This zone number 2, it's where things are starting to level up between your objective as a salesperson and the clients wanting to, engage a general contractor or a builder. And then of course, in level number 3, you can get definitely a lot more pointed as far as the call to action and asking for the business. It's just the way the game's played. I hope that helps. If you've got any questions, hit me up on email. All my information is in the podcast and YouTube bio. Get across there. I'd encourage you to go and check out the Contractor Academy. It's about 20 odd videos, over 20 videos. And I really, I use that as a bit of a litmus test nowadays to figure out whether people have got the discipline to go the distance. If you can't invest $65 American, and if you can't sit in a video for 20 minutes like this perhaps, but in more micro detail around business, and you can't look at spreadsheets, if you haven't got that discipline, then I'm sorry, but you're not ready to build a $3 million business. You might get away with a $750,000 business. You don't want to live in the swamp 1 to 3 for very long. And if you do, that might actually push you to start developing. Now, we want to learn the techniques and when we're small, so that what we learn at the bottom, or know at the top, we learn at the bottom. Develop the techniques when you're a little business so that when the business grows, you'll be ready to take on the extra pressure and the extra stress that goes with it. Get across there, elitebusinessadvisory.com. If you've got any questions, if you want to come and check out, have a talk to me about a complimentary coaching session, get on there and just book a spot. Make sure you've got the right time zones on your screen. And I'd love to sit down with you for half an hour and just chat about your business, what you're doing well, what you're not doing so well. See if I can give you some strategic advice as it relates to your business, very custom. and we'll just see what happens after that. But hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Go to Build a Kick-Ass Business. See you on the next episode. Cheers.